free until then. And we're doing our QB reads with Tim Hasselbeck. Tim, we're going to put you on the spot and make some quarterback predictions. And let's start with the New York Jets. Who will be their starting quarterback this season?
Greeny, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I'm saying it's Sam Darnold. He's not even 24 years old. And when you look at kind of what's gone on for him in New York, you know, Todd Bowles' last year with Jeremy Bates as the offensive coordinator, and obviously 2 years with Adam Gase. I think there is more to Sam Darnold than what we've seen, and he's already a Jet. To me, I think you can build around this guy, so I'm saying they stick with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that, and we will. Meanwhile, how about Houston? Who will be their starter next year?
Listen, I'm reluctantly going to say that they end up moving Deshaun Watson. And with that being the case, I think that they then are in the market to get a young guy, someone they can sell. And so I'm going to say Trey Lance. I don't think it's the right move to trade Deshaun Watson. Their hand may be forced. As Mike Tannenbaum said earlier in the show, you need to do it before the draft if you're going to do it. And with that being the case, I think that ends them up with Trey Lance.
Yeah, Lance is a name, if you don't already know, you will as we get closer to the draft. How about Washington? Who'll be their quarterback?
Well, you know, these guys are kind of flying under the radar. They did win their division last year. How about Ryan Fitzpatrick? He's kind of this guy that keeps finding himself without a home, and then he ends up somewhere, and he plays really competitive football, makes the people around him better. So I think you look at Washington and say Ryan Fitzpatrick would be a great guy. Think about the deal he signed in Miami, 2 years, $13.5 million. You know, you're not paying an arm and a leg for him, and I think you get good quarterback play.
I think that is such an important point. I want you to look at these numbers on the screen. Cindy, leave them up there a second. Ryan Fitzpatrick, over the last 3 seasons, has a better QBR than Deshaun, a better completion percentage than Tom Brady, more yards per attempt than Russell Wilson, and a higher touchdown percentage than Dak Prescott. In other words, what we're trying to say here is, while no one pays any attention to it at all, this is not, you know, your grandfather's Ryan Fitzpatrick, the guy that we always used to think was incredibly inconsistent and made the huge mistakes and everything else. He's been a genuinely terrific quarterback the last couple of years, and no one takes it seriously. So I think the point I'm trying to make here, Kimberly, is, and I made this point on the radio a couple of weeks ago, in this game of quarterback musical chairs, someone is going to wind up with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and their fans are not going to be excited about it. But those numbers suggest there's an argument to be made that they're actually winding up with an excellent quarterback. Kimberly, what do you think?
As somebody who has watched Fitzmagic in person, I love it. In year one, as long as you keep him for 1 year, he's great. What we saw in Miami, put up great numbers, but more importantly, he was a great guy for Tua. I know at the end of the season there were some hurt feelings about being benched for Tua and all that, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, the guy belongs in a Canton just for the fact that he is still playing. And everywhere he goes, he seems to reignite his career. In Washington, you know, their QB situation between Haskins and Alex Smith, who is still coming back from the leg situation, and Tyler Heineke, they have him, but Ryan might actually be a decent fit, a 1-year rental, if you will, because he's a good locker room guy, and you know he's going to take a young team and just show them how to do the job, and then you get rid of him.
Well, look, Mike Tannenbaum, Hembo put the numbers up there. The Washington football team had the worst quarterback play of any team in the NFL last year. They still went 7-9 because that defense is that good. You put a guy like Ryan, I don't know what their other options are, but you put a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick on there, to me it becomes a very interesting situation. Mike T, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. You win for today with Ryan Fitzpatrick and that top 5 defense. You're also developing Tyler Heineke maybe for tomorrow, so it makes a ton of sense. I think they would compete with Dallas, assuming that Dak Prescott is back for the division. Like you said, it's a really, really good defense. They got a couple really intriguing young skill players in Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. So this makes a ton of sense to me. It's a little bit under the radar, and they already signed Heineke to an extension, which I like. So this really fits, checks a lot of boxes for both sides.
And so, Tim, just to finish it up where we began it, which is with you, whether it is Washington or somewhere else, and we were just asking you largely to guess here, I think the larger point is the one that I made when I was asking Kimberly. Some team is going to sign Fitzpatrick. Their fans are not going to rejoice about it. But the truth is they're getting a much better player than they realize. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And Greeny, you said, I don't know what the other options are. Look, maybe you're talking about Cam Newton. Maybe you're talking about a trade for Gardner Minshew. That's what you're talking about. With where Washington's picking in the draft, they'll probably lose out on some of these guys coming out. And so, yeah, and then throw in the contract. Look, I just said, he signed a 2-year, $13.5 million deal in Miami. So you're not talking about paying him anywhere near starter money. You're just not. And so, yeah, good quarterback play, cheap contract, and by the way, a great leader and guy in the locker room.
Absolutely. And with all due respect to Cam Newton, who's had a sensational career, you watch the two of these guys play last season. There's no comparison. No comparison between what Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like he has left right now and what Cam does. So we will say, I think that is an intriguing one to keep a close eye on. The most intriguing quarterback situation, obviously, is the one in Dallas, where the Cowboys have a huge decision to make this offseason. You could sign Dak to a multi-year deal, or you could franchise tag him again. Cowboys legend Drew Pearson issued a warning over the weekend about this. It's worth listening to.
Where do you go if you don't sign Dak? And if you let him go, and especially if you let him play under the franchise tag this season, and you don't sign him anywhere along the line to a long-term contract, Dak ain't going to be here after that. Dak has a tremendous influence in that locker room. He is the leader. He sets the pace, much like Roger Staubach set the pace for us. That's what Dak's real value is.
Okay, so Kimberly Martin, explain, because it feels like we talk about this story constantly because it's been going on now for 2 years and change. But this is a critical week for this story. Kimberly, for those who don't know, why is that?
Well, deadline spurs action, and tomorrow starts the 15-day window for teams to designate franchise guys and transition guys. And it's expected that the Cowboys will franchise Dak for the second straight year, but this time it's going to cost over $37 million if he plays under the tag. So hopefully Jerry Jones listens to Drew Pearson, because we've all been saying the same thing about getting a deal done.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Mike Tannenbaum, I feel like you're the one who's been saying it the longest, but we understand where they sit right now. So Dak is sitting on $37 million guaranteed dollars this year, and he knows it. So that's where any conversation begins, I suppose. If you're Jerry Jones and you make up your mind, I have to get this deal done now no matter what else happens, where is it? What is it you're offering?
It's $40 million a year and nothing below that, because that's what Deshaun Watson signed for, and it's at least 3 years of guaranteed money. And you have to get the deal done ASAP, Greeny, because the cap is going down. That $37 million is taking a higher percentage of the cap. They need a massive amount of help on both sides of the ball. There's tremendous amount of pressure to get this deal done within the next 15 days so that franchise tag would come off their books and get a lower cap number.
And if the hang-up is years, which is what we're hearing, that the Cowboys have wanted a longer deal and Dak does not, you're going there. Whatever it is he wants, you're giving him 3 years if that's what he wants?
Greeny, it's 100% capitulation. Here's the contract, Dak. You basically fill it in, and we have to accept it. You win, we lose. We blew it 2 years ago. It's going to cost us $50 million. We're going to cut our losses and get it done. That
sounds good to you, and to me, it's tough for me to picture Jerry Jones doing that, but I think you have it right. Tim Hasselbeck, what do you think?
Well, to just kind of put it in some context, Mike is basically saying 3 years, $120 million, fully guaranteed. If they would have done this deal a while back, think back to the deal Kirk Cousins did. 3 years, $84 million, fully guaranteed. So you were more in the realm of that kind of neighborhood of contract, but by waiting, that's the kind of money they costed themselves. And, last year it sounds like they were trying to push it to a 5-year extension. Dak wanted a 4-year extension or maybe shorter. And so by doing that, they've lost. Even though he got hurt last year, Dak Prescott has won this negotiation.
Okay, Tim Hasselbeck, outstanding. Let me then go through the final piece of the program today, which is, we have asked each of you today to predict on the program what will be the biggest story of this quarterback week. Quarterbacks have been in the center of everything, so let's find out from you what you think is going to be the biggest storyline this week. Tim, what's the biggest storyline this week in the NFL?
The Hasselbeck Herald, I guess, has Marcus Mariota going to the Patriots. Look, they're a team that's kind of does a good job of having value. You know, you think about Marcus Mariota, played really well in Las Vegas in relief last year. And I think he's a guy that still has a lot of potential. A tremendous runner, a better than advertised passer. And you think about $10.5 million as your starting quarterback, you could pair him with a young guy that you're developing, even though Mariota's just 27 years old.
A really interesting one. Tannenbaum, how about you? What's the story this week going to be?
Drew Brees officially retired. He already renegotiated his contract down for cap relief. He needs to retire, make it official this week, and simultaneously get Jameis Winston under contract. He's the heir apparent in New Orleans. Both those things should happen this week.
Yeah. Tough to watch him walking off that way, but it does appear it was the last time we will see him in a Saints uniform. Kimberly, how about you? What will be the big story in the NFL this week?